next guest believes that as a people, we each have a moral obligation to help uplift each other and create a just and equal society. And while we cannot individually change the world, we can most certainly work towards ending racism and uniting our nation. Let's expand on some of his thoughts. We'll speak to entrepreneur Ian Fuhr, who joins us via our video link this morning. Ian, it's great to have you with us on the program. And on a day like today, it's incredibly difficult to unpack in one opening question to a guest like yourself about the challenges that we need to address on Human Rights Day. Where do we begin?
Sharon, thank you so much for having me on the show. I think race relations actually touches every aspect of our lives, of our society. And we need to understand that if we can't deal with race and racism in this country, we're not going to be able to move forward. It's still a blocker in our lives. We have to take into account our past, our 300 years of systemic racism, and then also the kind of racism we're still seeing today on social media. Race and racism has not disappeared in South Africa. It's very much alive. So each one of us, as you mentioned in your opening, has a moral obligation to try and uplift this country and to create an equal society. And it always starts with you as an individual. It might be difficult to change the country as an individual, but certainly you have a sphere of influence over people that you deal with and of course in your businesses where you can make a difference and we can create little pockets of transformation. So I always say it starts with you. There's an old saying that I heard not too long ago that said, yesterday I thought I was clever, so I tried to change other people. But today I became wise, so I tried to change myself.
Yeah, I love that. And, what you're saying is so interesting because, with all things, whether it's littering or not using plastic straws, we all think it's a change that needs to be made by someone else, not by me. But with all things, if all of us have the attitude that someone else can do it, very little will change, right? But if all of us has the attitude that it begins with me, one can just imagine the kind of difference that will make.
Absolutely. I think if we're hoping for people to change, then I think we're going to be waiting for a long time and something terrible will happen. It's called nothing. Really. We need to change ourselves. When you break an egg from the outside, life ends. But when you break an egg from the inside, life begins. And we need to understand that change always happens from the inside your heart and inside your mind.
Yeah.
So you need to look at yourself, understand the things that have been blocking your way. These are both the conscious and unconscious biases that we grew up with. And I've had to do that myself. I've also realized over the years, despite my 45 odd years in business trying to fight against the social injustice and race relations, that I still had some of those things from my early ages as a privileged white boy in South Africa. And so it's there, and we need to be aware of our biases, whether they are conscious or unconscious.
Yeah.
And we need to understand the difference between prejudice, discrimination, and racism, because prejudice is really just a prejudgment of a person that comes from a different group. So you see somebody and you make a judgment about that person based on the group they come from. Discrimination is when you act out on your prejudices and you do something about it. And then racism is when you have both prejudice and discrimination, and it's supported by a system, a powerful system of government or something of the like. So we need to understand all of these things. We need to take them into account, look into our own biases, look into our paradigms, and understand how we became who we are today. What are the things that made us what we are? Our prejudices, our biases, our beliefs, our value systems. I call that our book of rules. And if you understand your book of rules, then you'll be able to maybe understand other people's book of rules as well. And then hopefully we can move forward. But if we try and sweep race relations under the carpet and hope that it'll go away by itself and that we can just move forward, well, that is naive at best and irresponsible at worst.
Well, I actually want to touch on exactly what you've just said now, Ian. Your own background as a white man in South Africa. And people who are listening to our discussion this morning will ask, are you the right person to be talking to us about racism? What's your response to that?
I've had that often, Michelle.
Yeah.
A white person talking about racism is like a criminal trying to talk to the victim about righteousness. But it's really about understanding who you are and saying, listen, accepting, I have been privileged. I have had that, and I'm also Jewish, which means that I have, in my school years, for example, I was led to believe that we, the Jews, were the chosen people of God. And so, you build something in your own mind that says that you are superior. And as soon as you start doing that, then of course the problems start. Because there is no such thing as a superior or a chosen group of people anywhere in the world. We're all just different. And the sooner we learn to accept and respect our differences, the better off the country would be. So being white, I feel that I have an obligation. I must try and do something. And in my businesses over the years, in Sorbet, the business that I started in the beauty industry, and the Hatch Institute that I run now, it's all about helping people to transforming mindsets, transforming people, transforming businesses, so that we can accept that the future of this country is not what it used to be. And we have to make some compromises as white people.
Yeah.
We cannot stand there and hold on to our privilege and hope that we're just going to hang on there and nothing will change. Everything's changing all the time in front of our eyes. And the more we learn to accept and respect and make the compromises that are necessary, the better we have hope for the future in this country.
Yeah, we're all different. And, part of the discussion around confronting racism in our country is that the argument goes the other way, where someone might say, and you've addressed this in your article as well, where someone might say, I'm not racist. In fact, I don't see color. But that's not what we're asking for, is it? For you to not see color?
No, not at all. Color blindness, is not the answer to our problem in South Africa. If you say to somebody, I don't see color, it means I don't see you, and I don't recognize your life experiences.
And your history.
I don't recognize the things that you've been through in your life. So if you tell me I'm going to treat you all the same, that's not going to work, because people are not all the same. We all have our different book of rules. So color blindness is not the answer. We need to respect and accept that people are different. We have different colors, we have different backgrounds, we have different beliefs and value systems, cultures, and everything. And that goes obviously for other issues of diversity, like gender and sexual orientation, etc., etc. We all have different views on life. But the sooner we learn to accept and respect them and to uncover our unconscious biases and to work on them and to change them, to make sure that people feel respected and treated with dignity, and that in businesses everybody, regardless of who they are, have a sense of belonging, that they feel that their contribution is valued, etc., etc., and we'll be able to then start moving forward, even if we're transforming one mindset at a time.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
In your businesses, Ian, and you've talked about starting Sorbet, one of the beauty franchises here in South Africa. Yeah. How have these kinds of beliefs influenced how you do business?
Okay, so when I started Sorbet in 2004, the average store and the average person that was buying upmarket skincare products was white. And I went to a launch of a product house, and I saw that the general people there, they were all white. And so I went and asked them, what's going on here? Where are the black people? I was a bit facetious, and I said, was there a transport problem or something? But nevertheless, they told me that because it's an upmarket product, it's only bought by whites, and whites don't like to have their skins treated by black people. They don't like that. And that really set me off. And I thought to myself, right in the early stages of Sorbet, I said, listen, we're going to change this. We have to change this. If Sorbet ever becomes a successful brand, we're going to reverse that situation. And if I look back today on the Sorbet business, I sold it a few years ago, but 95% of our therapists at Sorbet were black and people of color. And if I look at that, that's probably one of the things that I'm most proud of, because that we literally changed the face of the beauty industry and made it look more like South Africa.
Ian Fuhr, let me thank you for your time this morning. An incredibly important discussion, especially on this Human Rights Day. Certainly a big part of the story as we continue to commemorate what unfolded on this day now 62 years ago, the racism question in South Africa. Ian, thanks very much indeed for your time.